Hey everybody, Greg Rice here in East Providence.
Yeah.
We're in East Providence. We're with Andy Cotton.
Yep.
How about some love, brother?
Oh, we're going for the handshake.
We're going all
I didn't see that one.
And Andy Cotton,
Yep.
It would be interesting. I was thinking on the way here, I wore my cotton for you.
Oh, appreciate that.
But how would it have been if maybe your last name was like polyester or silk?
Would have been very unfortunate.
Andy
I'll stick
Silk,
with the old, like, Pilgrim style, New World name. So
Andy Wool,
doesn't do it.
Andy Cotton.
I'll take it.
What is cotton? What is your background and your heritage?
I jokingly call myself a full-on pilgrim. Ancestry going back to some of the original immigration out of England and Scotland to America. So we've been here for generations on generations, really. So.
And you're from Mass, right?
Yeah, I'm from originally Cape Cod. My whole family's been, half my family was born and raised on Cape Cod for a few generations, and the other half kind of from New Jersey and whatnot. But yeah, I grew up there, born and raised, 12 months a year, which is pretty odd considering it's a summer destination. Most people didn't realize that people lived there in the winter, but a few of us did. And we used to joke around, it's the most beautiful place in the world for about 4 or 5 months a year. But the rest of the time, you gotta develop some hobbies.
I would go there. It was like our big deal.
Yeah.
To go to Truro.
That's out there. Yeah.
North Truro, rather.
Sure.
We'll put it up on the map. It's right at the top. I think of that Irish guy's arm.
That would be the. That's the inside of your arm here.
Right there, yeah. And we would go there. I was blue collar. That was our one vacation. Mm-hmm. We would spend 1 week at I think it was the Green Haven Cottages. That's coming to my mind. And it was my family, my sister, mom and dad, and then we would go with other families of friends and stuff. And it was just a beautiful place. And then you go to Provincetown, and as a young kid, I was like, "What's going on here?"
It's tough to understand.
I didn't get it. It was a beautiful place. Just
I will say though,
what was going on.
I have a whole theory on Provincetown where before Memorial Day and after Labor Day, it's one of the most beautiful, greatest places in the world.
100%.
The town is very subtle. It still has this identity. The identity never leaves it. But very subtle, beautiful coastal town, shops, restaurants. It's amazing. Between those two dates in the summer, it gets wild. And for those who appreciate all that, it's great. It's the identity's there. You know what you're going to get when you get there.
Right.
And it's fine. If that's what you want. But for me, it's a little too chaotic in the summer.
Yeah.
But some of my best, vacations, staycations, vacations locally, I'll go a couple weeks after Labor Day when the weather's still nice and the water's beautiful. Most of everything's emptied out of the town, but it's gorgeous. Right? Yeah.
I like it in the fall.
Cape in the fall is good. The water stays warm and kind of gives us a little bit of a lasting heat.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else starts to cool off and we stay a little warmer, a little longer, which has been nice. But we stay colder longer at the beginning of the season. So it takes us a little while to warm up.
Interesting. And before we get going, I didn't even mention we've known each other indirectly for years, but we recently connected through the last legislative session of housing bills.
It's kind of funny how that works, isn't it?
So it united us.
Yeah.
It united Lyon. It united Rent Prov, Shannon over there. It just brought us all together for this common goal.
In funny enough, it's also been the clients, right? So we were there advocating on behalf of, I don't even say advocating on behalf of our business. I would just say we're there advocating on behalf of logic 100%. And advocating on behalf of, and not only advocating, but educating, right? Because, the legislators in any state or country, they're not experts in everything, and they couldn't possibly be. They could all be Mensa members and Rhode scholars. You can't know everything about everything. So they're doing their best to navigate both pressure from constituents and a complicated world. And they're on these little committees to help identify problems and create bills to solve problems. But a lot of times they need the education and the advocacy from the local businesses or organizations who are truly experts in the field. And that's the process needs to work that way, right? And I think a lot of people sit back and and have had the mindset that, my elected individuals, once we elect them, it's their job to make governance. And that's a part of the story, but it's not the whole story. The whole story is, it is an open forum, participation style government.
Yep.
And there's a reason why we have open testimonies and involvement. You've got to advocate for what you think is right or what's important to your business. If people are getting the miss, and right now, affordable housing and rising costs is like front and center, one of the most trendy subjects in the world, well, at least in the nation. So, of course, there's just a slew of legislation that has good intention, but has massive collateral effects. So we've come out, and it's funny because we're sitting there talking on behalf of our businesses, and I'm sitting there in the waiting to testify, and I'm making friends with your clients. You're making friends with my clients. It's not just the business owners, but it's property owners and clients of other companies. And we're all exchanging ideas. It's been a pretty wild think tank. And, I really appreciate that it's forced us to, I think Miss Cleo wants to come up and join us.
Get a mic on her.
Yep. She's a sucker for attention.
Miss Cleo, just like the tarot card lady.
Yep.
Back in the day, I think she went to prison.
She's a big scammer. I think she was a fake Jamaican, I guess.
Obviously, I mean, but you just kind of like, as a kid, it would be on at like 10 o'clock, and I'd be like, she'd be like, and your future is gonna be the
Yeah, call me now for your reading.
And I was, you're reading, man, and I was like, this is awesome. I can't wait to get older.
Yeah.
Anyways, you were saying?
But yeah, I mean, back on track. It's been fortuitous. I mean, we always knew each other. We see your content, you see our content, we see Jim, we see a lot of the other competitors, both in the real estate investment game, as well as the.
I wouldn't even say we're competitors, though.
Well, in the management, we're all
like
to some extent. Listen, we're companies who offer a similar service in a slightly different way, and there's room for all of us. But most of our clients are going to most likely have interviewed with a couple of us, and they're going to choose the one that fits their needs.
Well, also, you get our clients, we get your clients. It's like this happy pass around.
Yeah.
And, Jimmy over at Lion, I'll get his, he'll get ours, and it just makes sense that we all peacefully coexist.
100%. A lot of this came out of these really oppressive bills. We largely wouldn't have had the forum to sit together and really get to know each other if it wasn't for the legislative session.
Correct.
I have to apologize. It's thundering and lightning, and she's deathly terrified of lightning. So
Gotcha.
It's all about Dad when there's lightning.
No problem.
So that's how we work here. When there's lightning storms, it's
like fireworks too.
Yep. Not a fan.
Yeah, I would say we don't really talk too much politics, and we were talking off camera before. But Rhode Island, it's known that it's a very blue state. Okay, it's a very democratic state, and the bills that get put forward are aligning with those types of policies, right?
Yeah.
So the most progressive, right, and they call it the Progressive Party. The word progress, like we're moving forward, but to me, it's frankly the opposite of that. Was a rent control bill.
Yep.
And we had to testify opposing that respectfully on behalf of not only the landlords but the tenants. All right, a lot of these bills that go forward are aimed at helping the tenants, but ultimately will incur more cost to the landlord, which in turn goes to the tenant. And then in a year they bitch that the rents are now too high, and it's like, well, if I didn't have to get lead tests every 2 years, if I didn't have to wait 60 days to raise your rent, if I didn't have to yada yada, I wouldn't have to charge this. So it's almost like these bills go in for a short-term victory for the rep or the senator to say, oh, I put in this bill to help this problem, helps them maybe get reelected, gives them some kudos on the hill. But then in 2 years, now the tenant's dealing with a rent that's 15-20% higher because of the landlord's cost to pay for said bill requirements. And it's just this vicious cycle.
Sure. There's no winning.
There's no win for
anybody.
anybody.
The only win is a reasonably, we'll call it a reasonably quiet government where they allow free market to take place and competition to exist, and we will force each other to become better at what we do, or we will simply lose business and market share. And the free markets have a great way of fixing a lot of these problems. And when you start coming in there and playing your, like, the government's supreme leader and picking winners and picking losers, and these nonprofits are going to win because, well, realistically because they're paying our campaigns, but on paper, it's these people need to win because they're helping little people, and we think we should take money and business away from these big bad entrepreneurial businesses and feed them over here. But you're creating this false economy, and then the entire thing crumbles. So really needs to be a hands-off situation, and some guidelines. I mean, fraud and things of that nature need to be absolutely crushed. But to the normal extent, everybody should be able to run their own business, and the consumer should decide what they like.
That's right.
And I'll take it a step further, and I've actually said this to a lot of the local politicians, up to one of our previous governors. I said, until you put chains on people's legs and tie them to Rhode Island, they will simply leave. We have one of the best states in the union. I mean, this really is an amazing place. But there will become a point where business owners and wealthy individuals will feel that it's not worth it anymore. And they leave, and they go to places like Florida, which is why the population is exploding daily. I mean, it's insane. You can only push people so far. And if they had some law that says we're not allowed to move, then they can push us further. But the problem is they've already pushed too far, and a lot of the wealth and the business has left. And it's sad because we do have such an amazing place. But I do believe people should have freedoms. If you don't like what you have here and somewhere else offers you a better living style, you should be able to pick up your toys and leave. Mm-hmm. Which, again, if you want to take it a step further, this might be controversial, so I'll cut this part out potentially.
I think we'll zoom in on that.
Yes, either way. When you have a lot of this, like, admittedly socialist people in the country, and I'm not going to get into like which party's which and which people are which, but people that truly have a socialist mindset, where huge government gets to pick how we live, why we live, and we're essentially passed out, little bits of money, little bits of food, clothing, kind of like Soviet Russia. And there's a lot of people that really believe this is the proper way to govern. And what I say to them is, why don't you just move to some place that already does that? I mean, if you really love socialism and you're an American citizen and you think in your heart, this is the absolute conclusive path for America, why don't you live somewhere socialist first? Really see how it works, and then bring your brilliant, tested, experienced, cohesive ideas back to America. And if you found that it works wonderfully, or maybe you find that part of it works wonderfully, socialize healthcare. You move somewhere that has socialized healthcare, Venezuela, wherever else, and you say, this is amazing. Every health issue people have is solved. Nobody has to pay. Problems are magically fixed at no cost. It's nobody else having to pay for it. This is the perfect. Then bring that back, and I think meritocracy, right? The American people will say, that's amazing, we'll do it. But to my knowledge, it's never happened.
It's like going to a country show and then saying, oh, they should be playing rock music right now.
Yeah, I really want rap music.
Better.
It's like, you probably should have just gone next door and went to the rap show.
Right. Interesting, yeah.
Everybody wants to feel important, right? It's kind of an American thing.
True.
Like, people, look at generations, right? Like, we all had a call to power in the 40s, right? The Nazis were taking over Europe. People were lying about their ages, lying about their physical health to do their part and be important, fight the evil, right? And so that generation had a call to action. It was important. Then you start getting into the next generations, kind of in the 70s and all that, and I think the train came off the tracks a little bit, right? There wasn't really a whole lot that was going on that called you to action, so that people found a pathway in advocating against government, against the Vietnam War, which, quite frankly, wasn't even a war. It still was a conflict. We never actually declared war, by the way. So the large amount of people we've lost as a nation in combat for late 50s we got involved after the French got kicked out, up until 73, 74, I don't know the exact dates, but it was a long conflict, right? never declared war. It was all done through, originally for years, through the CIA, through secret channels, through trying to go in and train and control the Vietnamese people, or the South Vietnamese had to try to create their own armies and get their own freedom from the North. But, you know, in the American side, it gave something for people to be excited about. Protest against the war. This is wrong. You know, quite frankly, it was wrong. But then again, it made people important. But it was a unified, for the most part, a unified cause for Americans to, amongst other things, rock music and whatever else. But there's a lot of things that went on in the 70s, but a lot of people just found cause. And here we are in a whole nother generation. Obviously, I'm skipping over some stuff, but I think we have a extremely fluffy country. I mean, there's literally safety blankets across every sharp edge in our whole nation. You know, like the little coffee tables for kids, and you tape on the little rubber edges so the kids don't hit their heads. Right. We literally have rubber edges taped on every sharp object in all of them.
Rubber edges taped on rubber edges.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and then on top of that, for not hitting one, you get a medal.
Yeah,
and if you do hit one, you get a medal.
Do you want more rubber edges? It's like I grew up in a town that was blue collar to the fullest. People worked construction. They worked in the factories. They had small businesses. Like, there was no such thing as handouts when I was a kid. WIC, women, infants, children, that was available, but my mom didn't qualify for it. Mm. We made too much, and it was just my dad working on the books. So we just got it done.
Yeah.
You work a side job. Sure. You ate what was left over. You split pasta. Like, you just did what you had to do. And meanwhile, you took care of your physical health. You took care of your mental health. You went to church. You contributed in your community. You did all these things. You learned whatever books were available. You absorbed what was available, as opposed to kind of pushing off everything that is available. And that's what people are like, no, I don't want a job. I don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we'll pay you this if you come. We'll pay your school. We'll give you a sign-on bonus. We'll give you stuff. No, I don't want it. Back in the day, you have to fight for opportunity.
Right now, opportunity is forced down your throat.
Yeah, and people are like, nah, I'm just trying to scroll and go on Instagram.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, there's nothing really out there to make people feel important anymore, right? Like, what giant cause is there that's legitimate?
It doesn't have to be giant though. It could just be, I'm gonna go to work and do a good person deed today. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna give a good 8 hours.
We gotta realize up to the 40s, like. You're still going to work, you're working at the factory, you're doing, whatever work you do, but even banker, whether you're, blue collar, white collar, doesn't matter the color, or no color. And then you hear the Nazis took Paris. And you go, well, fucking let me out. Oh. Right, so you had a rumbling of a united cause in America.
9/11 was the last.
You're going to be important, right? And like 9/11, yeah, that stirred people up where people were like, let me out, where are they, Correct. It's been a long time since we got that. We've got kids graduating high school, college, and they've got nothing to feel important about. So they're going to make something to feel important about, which is protesting this. They're going to fall right into the hook, line, and sinker. The media, the government, all the press, and it fills a void. It makes them feel important, like they're martyrs. Or every human needs to feel that. And I think we've found that a lot in a couple of things: business, mentorship. Mm-hmm. We talk about this off camera all the time, Greg. We both love working with other people who are, starting their careers or even trying to figure out what their careers are. And that's our call to action, right? That's
correct.
That fills our need for relevance in running larger, successful businesses. But people that are, directionless potentially or younger, they find action in, a bunch of emails they get saying that they need to show up and hold flags and banners and burn flags. It makes them feel important. So I think that's the problem. We have such a fluffy country where there's not a lot to really get people stirred up and unified. Mm-hmm. So they just run around in different directions and try to make causes.
True. It used to be like, all right, I'm going to practice so I can be the best on the basketball team. I'm going to practice to be the smartest kid in my class. I'm going to practice so I can get into college. I'm going to be in the military. I want to be a policeman, a teacher, whatever it is. as a kid, all my classmates had some type of goals,
Sure.
and the parents were there to support them in whatever way. And now it's just like, I feel like kids, to your point, don't have goals, and the goals they do have are like screaming for help.
Sure.
You know, like people
Yeah,
that
it's
are
gonna get worse.
dyeing their hair and changing their genders and stuff. Like, I feel that that is a call for attention.
It's going to get worse because this is a concept that I haven't heard, but it's an interesting one. I think a lot of detrimental societal problems, a lot of it now can be tied back to inflation, right? If cost of living is exorbitant, people with one job need two, people with two need three. There's less time in the household for parenting, right? If you're a single mother, a single father, and you're working a reasonable job and you can put enough food on the table, you can make it work, and now the cost of everything is 50% higher, double even.
You're gonna work more. So
Now you're picking up a couple shifts being a bartender, and now you're picking up a couple shifts doing demo, whatever. You're making it work, and that's less time mentoring your son or daughter.
Correct.
Or the mother, less time nurturing that family unit, and more time with these kids, kind of just digital babysitters. Right?
It's true.
Like iPads, iPhones, whatever. Playing, I mean, you see kids sitting in their beds for 6 hours straight with headphones on, playing whatever video game connects everybody. So I think inflation is going to be it's not a financial problem. It is a financial problem, but more than that, it's societal. It's a societal problem. The results of high inflation will be catastrophic for our country, and it will be getting worse.
It's a country buster.
It really is. I mean, look at it. There gets to a point where people just have to give up. I mean, there's nothing, it's really a sad. We haven't seen anywhere near the result that we're probably going to see from this. It is going to be really crippling.
Well, I just think about, obviously we're in the housing industry, and, good luck starting a family.
Unless you hit it big and you got a great salary and you've got it all figured out. Like, there are people out there. Listen, this isn't a speech for everybody, but Greg, for most people, you're right. How are you going to start a family right now?
Like 2017, my ex-wife and I were looking for a house. We looked and we found one in Warwick, Strawberry Field area near the airport, all ranches, nice middle-class neighborhood. $210,000, single family, and it came with an in-law attached.
Mm-hmm.
So we rented out the in-laws for like $1,200. The mortgage was $1,400.
Yep.
Okay, it cost $200 to operate that house. That enabled me to save and blah blah blah. Now, same neighborhood, same houses, $500,000.
Yep.
Interest rates are double roughly. So I don't know, maybe it would cost $4K to operate that house at this point. That's $4K.
Yeah.
Gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably one of the spouse's incomes, just completely off the table. And that's before oil, that's before insurance, that's before, your car, what are you left with?
Yeah.
You're left with like $68.
Yeah.
And you guys are fighting because you can't go out for dinner. And it's just creating such an infighting in families and communities.
I think
it's destroying us from the inside out.
And it's created a need for people to pick up second jobs.
Yeah.
That's really what a lot of it's also
True.
too. I mean, it's the wife is, on the weekends. I'm speaking because I have friends that do this. The wife is cleaning houses on the weekends, and the husband's out doing extra work at night. It's like, and what does that do to the family unit? Listen, I'm not the most qualified person to talk about this. I'm just the one that could say, here's the evidence. What's likely to happen?
Master bachelor pad, by the way. As we sit on his white couch.
What's likely to happen is bad. Exactly how? I don't know. I just know it's a thing, and it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Families need to be together.
Yep.
People need to work hard, but they need to employ temperance and find a way to manage families and manage their careers without one having to give. Like, that's just a basic understanding for me.
Yes.
And I don't think that's able to happen right now for the most people.
Agreed.
And that's a problem.
Big time.
And we'll start to see slow unraveling as kids are, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour less of parenting a week. what happens?
What does that equal in 10 years?
That equals kids playing more hours of some video game where they're, shooting zombies and then, creating that possible feeling of, power with a gun, and look what you get, right? I don't know.
Right.
Who knows? I don't know. I just know it's not good. So I think finding a way to ratchet that back as a society would be huge and very important.
And like also, what skills are they gonna have? I mean, I was cutting down trees with my dad. I'm, he's in the masonry business. I'm lifting blocks for him. I'm 10, 11, 12 years old. I'm just getting a feel for construction as a blossoming teenager. What skills are they going to have from playing on the phones? They're going to turn 18, 20, 25, become working age, and the person interviewing them is going to say, so what skills do you have? And they'll be like, well, I got a high score on zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Almost half of our population is obese.
Yep.
And I don't think there's enough weight put on health and wealth in the mind and in the body. I remember like the milk mustache, eat your Wheaties, there was public service announcements promoting, get your 20 minutes of exercise a day, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, all these little isms. And now it's like, here's your sugar, here's your phone, mommy's busy.
Yeah, I remember watching, was it Nickelodeon or MTV or whatever it was, and it was part of This Complete Breakfast was Fruit Loops. And they had it with it was like a little glass of Minute Maid, instant orange juice or Tang.
Tang.
The thing of Fruit Loops.
Tang.
And then maybe there might have been one little bowl of berries or something.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's part of this complete. That's a complete breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a society that's within 3 generations incompetent, sure, maybe
It's working.
yeah, it's working pretty good.
Sugar's the devil in my opinion.
It's the devil's assistant. The real devil.
Oh, the devil will be right with you.
Yeah,
Here's the sugar.
is the all the synthetic sugars. It's because then you're at least sugar is your body's looking and saying we hate this, but we know what to do.
All
with it.
right, bring it in.
But I know how to deal with it to some extent,
Yeah.
right? The synthetic stuff, I don't even know what to do with this. I'm just gonna give you cancer.
Right.
I don't know what to do. Let me just stick it here and hope nothing bad happens.
That's a good way to look at
So
it.
at least
Devil's
authentic sugar, you can metabolize it. It causes problems. It feeds parasites, feeds yeast, feeds all sorts of terrible things in your gut, but nobody knows what to do with it. It's all that junk that's in this, I'm not gonna give names, but all the junk that's in foods, that's not even sugar anymore. It's synthesized crap. I don't think a body even knows what to do with it.
Yeah, I have to say, the last couple of years, I've been more focused on my nutrition than ever before. Once I kind of turned 30, I was kind of man, I feel groggy today, or I got a little gut, or I feel puffy in my face. And it was, my whole life, I exercised or worked in some capacity and never had to think about what I ate because I think my body just handled it.
Burns it, yeah.
But once I turned 30, I started to notice, it stores in different places, and I'm like, I don't want this. So now I don't even eat bread, I don't eat cheese, soda, absolutely not, candy. There's so many things I don't do. I just gave up coffee 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Oh my God, that was
Headache for about 4 days?
2 weeks
Wow.
of withdrawals. And it's this warmth too that you're giving up. Where else do you get that kind of body warmth besides heroin?
Well, I can't speak too much on that.
Me neither, but
Sounds good though.
it's just where do you get that in the morning? And I'm what am I going to replace coffee with? You can't replace with anything. So
this is why I like these things, and I'm not promoting the brand, but I don't drink alcohol at all. This is just one of these Spindrift things. Ingredients: carbonated water, lime juice.
give them a little plug.
Spindrift. These are pretty good. I mean, a lot of the other stuff is.
Take a sip and then smile at the camera.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my $5 for Spindrift. Yeah.
And then show your teeth too.
Like a Wayne's World.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I mean I drink that stuff because it's even carbonated water. It's got its own health problems, but I think that's.
Does it?
There's some stories about the carbonation part of it disrupting your gut to some extent. But
I heard that it helps with digestion, Pellegrino I have with most dinners, and it gets. I feel like it helps your body kind of
Yeah.
break it down.
I don't know enough about the physics of it. I haven't really done any research on that. There's just a couple things I've heard that too much carbonation is disruptive. But point is, this is not very carbonated. It's made with real stuff that actually grew somewhere on a tree.
Yeah.
Not probably a tree sprayed with pesticides, but listen,
We'll
least of the problem.
Draw the line somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
can't get carried away. But
So why don't you drink alcohol? And did you ever?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
So there's a longer story that I won't get into fully, but I'll give you the headlines. 2000 and we'll call it 11, really sick with Lyme disease. Playing golf, must have hit one in the good eating grass, they call it, not the short stuff, and got bit by a tick. I think it was down in Newport, actually, playing golf. And, it took months for me to figure out why I was so sick. My legs weren't really working. Everything was inflamed. I couldn't really see that well. Couldn't think that well. Crushing headaches. I felt like I had a constant sinus infection mixed with a hangover every single day. Just couldn't figure it out. And I went to 5 or 6 different doctors. Everybody kept saying, maybe this, maybe that. Honestly, no joke. Even in Mass General, they said, maybe it's MS. Maybe it's early Alzheimer's. I'm like, early? I'm 27. How is that early Alzheimer's? 20. So a lot of these things didn't really make any sense. So I kind of jerked around quite a bit because there's quite a bit of, do any research on that, there's quite a bit of misinformation about Lyme disease. And without getting carried away in the Lyme subject, Lyme disease is really one thing. It's one bacteria called the Borrelia burgdorferi. But when you get bit by a tick, you don't get just the one thing. You get whatever the tick had, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people who are suffering from Lyme may actually not have classic Lyme. They may not have the Borrelia bacteria. They might have one of the other ones. So you're negative on a Lyme test, but you're incredibly sick with these other things. And everybody thinks if you get bit by a tick and you're sick, it's Lyme. It could be one of like 20 different things.
Gotcha.
Or most of us have a bunch of them, right? You get whatever the tick had. So I chased this around for months, kept getting worse and worse and worse. Finally, I was just so frustrated. I saw a naturopathic person up on the east side. She's no longer practicing right now. She did a quick exam, looked back at my mouth, temperature. She goes, "You got Lyme." Like, not a question. You got Lyme. I said, "You can tell that by looking at my throat and feeling my pulse and reading my eyes and whatever the stuff she did." She goes, "Yeah, you got one. I'll give you a real test. You got to pay for it. It's called iGenetics. It's like $3,000, I think, $3,500, where it's the actual real test for Lyme. And take your blood, take the test, and we'll see." And sure enough, my results lit up like a Christmas tree. I got tested for Lyme before. It came up negative. She's like, "That's a long story. Those tests are designed to be inaccurate." So I was like, "What? This sent me on my quest of wellness." And her advice is the first thing you need to do, because she even told me out of the gate, says this is going to be really difficult. You're signing up for a couple of years of a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, neurotic research, and your path forward is going to be very difficult, because I was quite sick. If you're giving me a pathway, I'm excited. To know there's actually a path and a reason, like I'm pumped, right? So. Yeah. I did a lot of stuff with her, alternative stuff, and then I went to different doctors. But then at least I had something I was fighting against. And I felt better knowing that I'm like shooting at a target, not just shooting in the air, hoping it hits something. Right. And, again, this is a huge tangent, but, what she had said was you need to make your body as effective as possible at cleaning itself so that when you're fighting this thing, you have every possible benefit. You're not clouding your body up with stupidity and bad lifestyle.
Obstructing progress.
When it needs to be working harder than anybody else is to clear this from your body. So she said the same thing. It's like, there's a bunch of things. Eat better, no alcohol, certain things to live by, and alcohol is toxic. It's emotionally toxic, it's mentally toxic, and it's physically toxic. And of course, there's going to be somebody who says, "Well, red wine is good. It's got, the doctors, red wine is not good. There's resveratrol in red wine. Resveratrol is incredibly good for your body. But the wine part and the alcohol has no benefit for you. Detriment only. So if you really are hell-bent on resveratrol, go get resveratrol. Just don't do alcohol. So anyways, and I didn't drink a lot. But I would go out with the guys and I'd have a bunch of beers. And, I wasn't an alcoholic, but, I'd go out and, I'm a 27-year-old. I like to go out and have fun. And for me, especially at that age, in my brain, fun equaled drinking and going out.
Correct.
Those were equal.
That's how you're wired from when you were. That's how I was wired.
Yeah, and for me, once I stopped being as sick, took years, by the way, stopped being as sick, I realized that fun isn't, like, alcohol is not fun at all. It just makes you look like, it makes you look weak. And I've started probably from 27 to now 41, just 41. Wow. This quest from 27 to 40s has been about understanding a better path in life and being a more solid man. And that means being in control of your mind at all times. That's 100%. I mean, like, there's a lot of inner work I've done to acknowledge that at any point in your life, being out of control is bad, in my opinion. And a lot of things happen when somebody's out of control or not making decisions based on all their mental devices. You know, alcohol, drugs, whatever. Mm-hmm. You know, when other things are affecting your decision making, that's the opposite of manly. A guy who gets drunk drinking 10 beers every afternoon, that's not manly. What's manly is the guy that's always has his devices, so if anything goes wrong, regardless whether it's with his family or his friends, he always is in control of what to do and how to get out of the situation. That's manly. So it's not this attempt to, like, be a bigger man, it's just, it all kind of folded together for me, where I said, well, living sober makes me better at what I want out of life, makes me more stable, and at the end of the day, health is wealth. I can wake up feeling decent, and that's everything. You know, so for me, good times and alcohol don't go hand in hand anymore. Good times and good decision making to me are equal now, and alcohol has no place in my life.
How long did it take to unwire the alcohol fun?
It's a process because it's FOMO, right? Like, I'm the one. It also happened at the same time as I'm healing from something large with my health. So, you know, I see my friends going out having a bunch of beers, and I'm sitting with a PICC line in my arm. You know, the PICC line is, right, it's a tube that goes into your heart, and you get a flow of antibiotics. I'm sitting with a PICC line watching my friends go out and party and have a great time. So there's, like, the fear of, like, man, they're doing fun stuff and I'm not. But I guess that's kind of more about the fact that I was sitting inside healing while they were partying, right? So I don't know if it's the alcohol.
But how long, you know, of the process until you're like, you know what, now I don't care, because now you don't care. Now you're like, I'm actually not missing out. I'm glad I'm not there, maybe.
I'll go out. Like, and that's the fun part. That's when you're able to do that, you realize that you will make this connection in your brain. So why did I not do this earlier? I'll go out with my friends for birthdays, for parties, and we go to bars or restaurants, or even, I mean, I haven't been to a club in years, but yeah, at one point clubs. And I'm sitting there with a soda water and a lime, and I have the time of my life. I'm like, why am I the only one doing this? Well, how is nobody figuring this out? And I've been doing this for 14 years, right? So there's kind of like a recent movement towards sober life, but like I was doing this long before that movement even came to a good thing. This is, you know, in the prime clubbing and drinking years. I'm the one sitting with the water. Like, wait a minute, so I can go out, have as much fun as everybody, talk, listen to music,
spend $0.
Yes, laugh my ass off all night, have a great time.
Yep.
12 o'clock, all right. They got alcohol in the system. They're staying until 2, 3, 4 in the morning. 12, my body kind of shuts down, says, you need sleep. I had a blast till 12, get a cab home or walk or drive. That's the other thing about drinking, you can always drive. And I'm specifically thinking of times in Miami when I was out at some of these clubs, like, you know, years ago with my friends, and 12, maybe 1, my body says, we're done. Take a cab back, sleep like a baby, wake up in the morning feeling great. My buddies are just knocked out. The whole next day is dead. I'm like, why? Like, this is the cheat code. Why is everybody not doing this? You can have all the fun without any of the downfall. Like, what? Why am I the only one to figure this out? And anytime I go out, everybody's like trying to force drinks down. Come on, Cotton, why, you know, just have one. And I've always been a strong person. I don't want that. It's not for me. And it's never been a problem, but you know, I can understand that can definitely nag some folks. But I'm telling you, not drinking has just changed everything for the better for me.
Wow.
I don't know if you're a drinker, but
Oh yeah, I drink.
yeah. So it's just, for me, it's changed the game completely.
I look at drinking as an assistant to fun, right? We talk about assistant to the devil. So to me, I'll go out. I like old fashioned. I have a couple of those. I'll take a puff, right, of some legal weed, and I'll go see a show with my dad, and it enhances the experience. It lowers inhibitions. You can relax. You can just be in that moment. And I've never had a problem with it. I never had a major health issue, and I've definitely kept my health in check, as you can tell. So I think that in moderation it's fine, but when it's a necessity and it's overindulgence, it's gluttony, then it's a problem. And I have people in my life that, I see them drink 6, 12 beers in a night and then wake up tomorrow and then, oh yeah, we're going to go have 6, 12 beers again. It's just part of the routine. That to me has always been, but I'll tie one on once in a while. I'll have a night and then I get back to it the next morning. To me, sobriety is not in my cards because I've never had a reason for it to be.
Yeah.
And I've been able to, I've been drinking for 13 years, in different settings, and I've had a lot of great times with it.
Yeah.
A lot of not so good times too, especially the morning after.
Yep.
But
and I just love the idea that when my time is up and I'm done, I jump right in my car and I drive home, and with everybody I got with me.
Yeah, true.
That is a nice feature.
Yeah.
I'm not dependent on anybody. And everybody's got their own path, but for me, it is the master cheat code. And so long as you can manufacture the same amount of fun.
Which is the thing, if everybody in that club was drinking soda waters with lime, you wouldn't have had the time of your life because you're feeding off of their energy. You're almost like,
to some extent,
you're like absorbing what they're putting out because you're not going to be adding that same type of energy with your spin drifts.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Maybe in my younger years,
okay,
I don't think I needed the alcohol to get after it.
Okay.
But, either way, it's worked wonders for me. I've a bunch of my friends have started to come over to this side, and
I'm more on your side than the other side. Like I'm leaning into that. I'm not.
You're not ready for that yet.
But it's just like I'll drink once. Like tonight we're gonna go for dinner. I'll have a couple cocktails. Cool. So Thursday night, haven't drank all week. Perfect.
Big deal.
No problem.
Let's jump into a subject that's always on my mind and equally on a lot of young people's minds in Rhode Island.
I'm not interested in that.
Yeah. Well, the most important, how do people get started in a business? How do you
not get started in a business?
Well, I hear you, but that is relevant to people wanting to start a business, but the practicality of actually doing it is a challenge for a lot of people. And I know you do also, but I really enjoy mentoring people and helping people say, well, I know I can do something. And I'm going to jump all over the place, but when I mean start a business, I mean start a business, not do something to make money, right? So there's, I flip a lot of houses too. My company flips, me and my partner, we've ebb and flow, but somewhere in the 100 properties a year range on top of our business endeavors. And it's we've got a lot going on. We've got 100 something employees total. We've got an operation, and I work with a lot of young investors, young flippers, and only because I like to. It makes me happy. A lot of people know that real estate is a path to financial freedom, but it's also exciting. And to the extent I come across somebody that has the right kind of mindset, I'll absolutely work with them as much as I can. The big adjustment that I think people have is going from somebody that can perform a task and get paid for it, right? I don't mean with a boss. I'm not talking showing up to a job. Let's say somebody goes out, buys a house, flips it, sells it, made money. I ran a business. It's not a business. You did something to earn money. That's wonderful. But how do you make that into a business, right? Where you can have it for years on end, repeat, accounting, legal structure, all the different components to a business. So when you got into management, how do you go from, hey, I want to go buy real estate and manage, to I want to build a full-fledged legitimate business around this.
Well, that was
Because that's complex change.
yeah. Well, when I started, that was the plan, was to manage other people's property, but also build something that self-sustains. That I don't need to be daily driving, but present, but also replicated in other states. So I wanted, along with Nick, to build a model that people can just wash, rinse, repeat anywhere.
It works with subtle tweaks at most anywhere.
Correct. Anywhere with a population of 250,000 people within 30 minutes of an office drive, you can plug and play our model in anywhere in the United States. And that was the goal from day one. But no, most people don't have that goal, and it's also not realistic for most people. But how to start a business, I just think that the thing with the business, you hit it on the head, you can't be in it just for the paycheck. Like, you have to be passionate about it. Like, you're passionate about mentorship. That could be a business for you one day. It could be a losing financial proposition, but it could be a business of...
And that's eventually where I'm going to go. I mean, we've done really well. You know, I've got a lot of philosophies on business, and I think, you know, I've been blessed. And I think at some point, my next move is going to be to get into more structured mentorship.
Like philanthropy, helping younger, like school-age children, or...
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like, I haven't thought that far into it, because school-age children tend to be in a different mindset, right? Like, I kind of like working with people that are out of school that have been beaten around by the corporate world, maybe realize how terrible it is to get into some garbage job and be, you know, dance monkey for whatever your boss wants you to do, and realize that, you know, you don't really get anything to show for it at the end of the day, and you're selling time for money. And the first thing I tell people is, to do this right, you will never sell your time for money. Ever again. We just talked about that on the way in. I took an hour to get from Coventry to East Providence, which should take 20, 30 minutes. And I said to him, when I walked in, I said, imagine commuting every day to a job that you hate, then getting an hour in traffic on the way there, on the way back. It's just like, you never get ahead. Nope.
You only just get enough to
to wake up in the morning and do it again.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. There's a lot to business. We can unpack this thing for hours and hours, weeks. You know, giving people. I think people need confidence. They need a push, right? And I like to start with pushing them into find a way to gainfully employ yourself, right? And understand, you know, when you don't have a boss telling you to be in at this time and leave at that time, like self-governing, right? If you can make those rules and you've got the discipline to stick with self-governance and make sure that you can basically employ yourself, that's the first step. But the real complexity that has a lot of people baffled is how you go from employing yourself to running a company, running a business. That's where nobody's really talking much. There's every mentor, every webinar, or, you know, all these radio ads for these big seminars on learn how to do this, it's all focused on teaching you how to employ yourself. And that's important, but none of it's teaching you how to go from employing yourself to building a business. And a lot of people don't understand the difference. There's a huge difference. I mean, you look at people that I get, you know, let's say they flipped a few houses, it's just me and my brother, and we flip houses, and I do, you know, some of the landscaping work and some demo work, and I sub the rest out with people I know. Here's my business card, and I look on the front, they've got a cute LLC they've filed somewhere, you know, I don't know, whatever, you know, big deal LLC or whatever it is. And then on the card there's a CEO, big deal LLC. I'm like, and I don't really say anything rude, because like I love the enthusiasm. I'm like, yeah, you're CEO you're the chief executive officer, and my first question sometimes is like, yeah, how many other executive officers you got on the board? You know, like, if you're a chief, that, you know, you got to be a chief of a lot. Like, how many other other officers you got? And the answer is usually zero, or like my brother, you know, or my dad or my family. So then the next question is like, all right, like, you got to understand, and this isn't to put them down, but this is to understand like the proper pathway forward, right? You know, business card says CEO means you spent $20 at Staples and put CEO on a business card, right? And I think the key is that you're a solopreneur, right? Entrepreneur, solopreneur, or you've built yourself gainful employment. And when you're a business, then you're still not really a CEO. You're like a founder, a president, even if there's a number of people. If you have a vice president, you have various management level people, you're president. And then if you really have a big company that's overseen by a board of directors, and then you have a management people, the board and the management can have some links between them, but largely they operate independently. Then fine, you can be a chairman of the board. But it just always made me laugh that the minute somebody figures out how to do something and get paid for it, they're the CEO of their own little world. It's made me wonder if people like the title or the reality of their business.
True.
So I absolutely would hope that some people out there are looking for the pathway to build a real business, not the pathway to get a business card with a title on it. But my business, I got 100-something employees total with all the different, enterprises we have. My business card says Andrew Cotton, investor. That's what I am. I'm an investor. That's the best way to summarize what I do every day. I wake up in the morning looking for things to invest in. And I go to sleep every morning, or every night. Every night anyways.
You sure you're not drinking?
Yeah, I'm trying. And I go to sleep to figuring out what ways to invest money and time. I'm an investor. It'd be really awesome actually if we found people that build real companies, big companies, 100, 200, 300, 500 unit businesses, where they've built them and specifically make all the questions about how did you go from a solopreneur to running a business. And I think that would be a really interesting discussion. And we're still a small company, but I mean, it's a monumental shift where the shift is away from money into purpose.
Correct.
You will not get past, you are unlikely to get past solopreneur if you're looking at what you do from a financial perspective.
Correct.
Finances are important. Numbers are important. But they're mostly important because they're the scorecard to which we keep track of whether or not we're successful, and I like being successful. Money's relevant. It's, I want to know I do pretty well. And that's my scorecard. But focusing on that would really help bring confidence to young people, because a lot of young people can pull a side job and do something, make some money, and teach them how to make that to a company. Nobody's doing it. And I think that's a shame.
I was just going to ask you what your final thought was as we wrap up here, but I think we just gave it.
Focus on that spot, not the beginning part of, it's important to motivate young people to start a business, to be a solopreneur, to employ themselves. Hugely important. I don't take any credit away from that mission, but I'd like people to somehow find ways to teach, somehow who have been there, teach people how to transition from that to a business. And I think that would really allow for some more mobility within the classes. And, some of the most lucrative businesses all have blue collar origin. There's like a little bit of a barrier between blue collar and white collar. But some of the best white collar businesses have blue collar origins. So how do we do that, right? Like, how do we teach people okay, great, you built yourself a great small business, a solopreneur, you maybe have an assistant, you maybe have a helper, but how do you transition to a business that allows you growth? Like that middle part, turning blue to white, there's not a lot of attention there that I've seen. And I think that's something that would be hugely advantageous for young people. I know so many, in my mind, I'm thinking a lot of tradesmen. I'm thinking of real estate investors and flippers too. But tradesmen specifically, people that know how to do a task well, they have all the licensing, they got everything done. And their pathway is to, hire a couple people and kind of keep going down that road. But how do you turn that to a real business? Marketing department, legal department, the right people, the right partners, the right growth models. Like how do you shape that into a real business? It's hard to do. But I think that it's very underappreciated that little middle point.
Good point.
Just a thought. I swear to God, we messed it up like you wouldn't believe for years.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to shape our world into a real business. from just a couple guys flipping houses and investing in things they thought made sense.
Right.
It's a hard process.
Look at where it is today.
I mean, we've grown quite a bit, and we're looking forward to continue to grow. You know, but again, I've got the right people. I've got partners. I've got an incredible team.
You got that hair?
Got the hair. Got most of it, anyways. I got a picture with my partners on my mantle. No joke. I didn't put that up for the show. It's got two of my partners in it. Third one's not in it, and then one of my guys who's one of our key guys started as a maintenance part-time maintenance tech. Now he's moved up the ranks. Yeah, of course. Some of the partners. So find yourself some trusted people. I've heard it since I was a little kid, right? You can't work with family and friends. Don't work with family. Don't work with friends. It always gets messed up. It'll never work. And I always thought that was the kind of pathway in business, right? Like never work with family, never work with friends, meet new people. And as I built the business, I've realized with my partners, I would like to change the phrase, is that you only work with family and friends.
Wow.
And I even say that for interviewing people for senior positions, said we only work with family and friends, or people we think would be friends. Okay. So there's my leaving point. Because if you treat them right, you're honest, you're all pulling in the same direction. You could fight like cats and dogs, but as long as you trust that you're fighting with the same mission, we might have different opinions on how to execute, but we want to go to the same place. You should be able to work with your families and friends. Who do you trust more than family and friends?
I don't trust my family. Just being honest.
No, that's not you. But you trust your friends.
Some of them.
So, well, pick the ones you trust then.
Yeah, I got a couple.
I'll say work with all your friends. Work with the ones you trust.
Emilio the Spirito I can trust more than anybody.
So there you go.
And he's a friend that I cultivated and nurtured out of thin air. And I trust him. It's my father, and then it's Emilio. Those two guys. And then Nick Dagnillo, Nexus's founder. You're third, bro. Emilio's 2. So that's my 1, 2, 3.
There you go. I mean,
and then my dogs.
Your dogs are number 1. 0.5,
Yeah.
And so, I got Shane and I've been partners since 2013. Justin 2016. Zach I think 2015. And I knew one of them socially as a friend before business, but I by being a friend, I knew how good he was in business. So it took a couple of years of working with him to try to get him to leave Florida and come join us in the business. And eventually he did, and it's been wonderful. But Shane and Zach, my other partners in different businesses, we are all close to best friends now. So we partner not only with friends, but people we think we will be friends with. If you don't see yourself wanting to hang out with that person outside of work, you shouldn't be necessarily partnering in business. You can never predict the future, but I think it's really important. The social camaraderie, the support system, the bond that business brings to people. You got to make sure they're the right character of people.
100%. Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time.
Appreciate the long hour drive through rush hour to come to East Providence.
Investment in our program here. Yeah. Folks should go to what website? What's your website?
So our management company, we're Stonelink Property Management, and that's really our website. My investment company operates under various entities, but it's
Big Deal LLC.
Not that one. I promise you, it's not.
That was taken. You wouldn't want.
That was that was a real off the cuff LLC.
I can tell, and I like it.
Yeah, that's almost as good as if we had done.
You know how companies will do like B&H Holdings LLC. Yes. So I remember when I was buying the church in Woonsocket, I had to make an LLC. So I said, I'm a joke kind of guy. So I said, I'm going to do Cuck Holdings LLC.
There you go. That's savage. You should have named it, I just bought a church holdings.
I had never been to church LLC. Yeah. So I said Cuck Holdings LLC, and then I told the bank, and they're like, we will not fund or do any business with this project if it's called that. I was like, you guys are no fun.
I actually do have an LLC that owns my warehouse called Glory Holdings.
Yeah, there we go.
I mean, if you can't, you have to have a savage sense of humor.
100%.
If you're not laughing all the time, you're probably going to be crying.
Yeah. Pick one.
But yeah, for me, laughing works way
I
better.
love laughing.
Yeah.
Love it. And I love humor. I just love humor. Like humor is the glue to life. It's the adhesive that keeps everything together. Without humor, life would be a shitty place.
Problems would be a lot shittier.
Right, dogs would be like shitting on the floor right in front of you.
Can you imagine that?
Interview.
Listen, problems would be real shitty if you couldn't laugh your way through it.
That's right.
Yeah. But if you're laughing hard enough, they turn into education.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's all I got. If you want to get in touch with Andy, I'm not going to give you his number. I'm not going to give you his email. You just have to maybe run into him out there. Maybe you show up at the State House and speak.
Please do. We need more of us.
Yeah. So any questions, put them in the comments field below. We'll get right back to
There's
you.
always social media, which I'm not that great. I'm not that great on the Instagram and social media and Facebook and
Yeah,
all that.
put
But
your handle
I'm
up
there. It's just just look my name up. Andy
Cottonomics is your name.
Cottonomics. That's right.
And it's his big. It's his felony conviction photo when he got convicted of was it 38 felonies or 37?
39. Yeah.
39.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And you can,
Fake news.
You can fake news. You can follow him there. So once again, Greg Rice here in East Providence.
Yep. Appreciate you stopping by.
With Mr. Andy Cotton. Thank you.
Excellent.